What's up, fellas? We are live. So we got our Monday value panel here. Me and Sartain had a massive falling out because of the debate yesterday. So he's not going to be joining us anymore because he's a Trump loser. No, I'm just kidding. He just couldn't make it today, but he's going to be there for the next one. And I want to welcome a guest appearance from Nate. Nate, here, why don't you tell the guys what you do?
Yeah, what's up, guys? So full-time, I work as an aerospace engineer on NASA's SLS rocket program. So representing the tech dorks here, but I also run a pornography addiction recovery coaching program. And I'm Austen's inner game coach inside of his mentorship program.
Why don't we start with that? Why don't we start talking about just quickly pornography addiction? Because that's not something I've ever actually really talked about here much. So do people, okay, so for me, I used to watch porn like everyone else when I was younger. And then like I started getting late and then I stopped jerking off. Are there people who like legitimately can't stop watching porn, like similar to people who can't stop doing heroin or whatever?
Absolutely, 100%. It is. I think it's way more common than most people acknowledge.
How common do you think it is?
So statistically, we know that, this number is just ridiculous if that tells you how little like good research has been done. Somewhere between 4 and 40% of men experience some kind of addictive relationship with pornography that persists after getting into a committed relationship of some kind. The numbers for women are obviously smaller, but in my experience, I would say probably closer to 40% of guys have a very problematic relationship with it that's going to require some kind of serious work to get it resolved. And then probably another 40% of guys are more in like the bad habit territory where it's like, I don't feel good about doing this, but I also can't put it down for some reason.
Do you think there's a healthy way to consume pornography, like where you jerk off here and there to porn or whatever, but you're not addicted?
I think it's a lot like asking, is there a healthy way to drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes? I don't think there is a such thing as like a healthy dose. I think there's people who have a relationship with it that never turns addictive. Just like somebody, there's people who obviously don't have problems with alcohol, but they still go out and drink on a Friday night. I think pornography is like digital sexual cigarettes, basically.
There's one good use for porn that I actually found. It's when I'm driving and I'm like about to fall asleep and I just put on like big titty Latina gets railed and then just the audio of a girl getting fucked just wakes me up. Like sometimes I'm just blasting that shit and all I'm trying to do, I think I'm jerking off, but all I'm trying to do is not fall asleep.
Nate was not prepared for this edge case.
Yeah, man.
And I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I swear to God, I do this like when I'm like falling asleep behind the wheel and it wakes me the fuck up. I've tried blasting like metal music. I've tried whatever, but nothing wakes me up like just a fucking Leela Star just getting railed.
Bro, just get a Tesla.
Bro, I'm stealing that. That is gold. I usually just play some music. Fuck that.
Music is the first level, but sometimes you gotta go to the second and third level. Third level is just like watching some Japanese bukkake porn with like one Asian girl, and there's like 25 like old Asian men that come in the room, and yeah, but you don't want to go there right away. Nate is not laughing. He's like, just this disc.
I love that Alex has a porn category of just can't go to sleep. We'll put this on.
This is really, I swear to God, this is the only time I watch porn. The only exception is if I'm going to do like a podcast with like a porn star. Sometimes I'm curious. So I'm like, yeah, let me find out what she's like when she gets fucked before I interview her. But
do some research.
Yeah, but I haven't jerked off to porn in a very long time. So what's the process for recovering from porn addiction?
It depends. So the first thing that I do typically when I work with people is I help them identify where they're at on a spectrum of addiction and dependency. So some people, like I said, what's that? Well, I mean, you haven't watched it in a while. I would say you're probably like a 1 or 2 out of 10. You're in a weird edge case of maybe dangerous driving potentially, yeah. But
it's even more awkward when my dog's in the car because people think I'm jerking off with like my dog watching. That's the yeah. I'm like, does Rhaegar understand what's going on? I'm like, Rhaegar, stop. These guys tongue out like, yeah. Sorry.
But yeah, so there's a big difference between somebody who has a bad habit or a mild dependency with pornography versus somebody who's legitimately in addiction territory. Typically what you see is people for whom there's a bad habit, just some basic lifestyle interventions, some coaching, getting them to start going out and forming real relationships, working on good habits, putting blockers in place, like some pretty simple things like that can be incredibly effective for them. Then there's people for whom usually they're very early exposure to pornography. So usually between the ages of like 8 and 12. And, some people drink coffee and, whatever floats your boat. But for a lot of people, there's a very early exposure to pornography. There's usually family of origin trauma. So they grew up in a family where there was a lot of emotional neglect. They never really learned how to process their emotions. And then they discovered masturbation and pornography, and their brain developed with it as a coping strategy for dealing with basically every emotion that they have. They also ritualize. It becomes a part of their routine with like going to bed or whatever. For people who've been watching it since they were really young, it becomes such a formative part of how their brain processes emotion that it becomes very, very difficult for them to quit. And they'll experience a compulsion to watch pornography, which is an urge that is stronger than their will to resist, and it persists despite mounting negative consequences in their life. Probably the number 2 reason people come to work with me is because they got into a relationship and then immediately started experiencing porn-induced ED. Or they're in a relationship and then they're like can put porn away for 3 to 6 months and then it comes back. And then the girlfriend finds out, and then it's this massive explosion, betrayal trauma, like what's wrong with you? What's wrong with me?
Wait, girls
Why am I not good enough for you?
I've never had that happen. I've never had a girl. Like typically girls will be down to watch porn with you. From my experience. No?
It depends. There's a lot of, I would say a huge chunk of girls find that basically to be cheating. I think there's a very strong argument to say that it basically is, if it's not being openly discussed and agreed upon in the relationship.
Dude,
Hang on. I'm curious about this. So if you guys have a girl and you walk in one morning and she's got porn open, do you guys feel cheated on?
No. Not at all. No,
I don't at all. I'm just thinking, like, if a girl was to walk in and you got porn open and she's like, I can't believe you betrayed me like that. I mean, I'm surprised guys or girls feel this way. Like, what do you think?
No, sometimes when I'm driving, I'll literally put on porn just to fuck with my girlfriend when she's like talking to like whatever her Spanish shit. Like she's sending voicemails to one of her girlfriends. I'll just blast some like fucking porn, and she's like, blah blah blah, español. Like yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome.
I think girls are more likely to feel that way because it's more of a visual thing for them. It's like you're looking at other girls, and that kind of bothers them. It also can put emotional strain in the relationship. I think that's another thing.
I get it if like you're jerking off instead of fucking your girl. Like maybe your girl's like, hey, I really want to have sex with you tonight, and you roll over, you're like, I'm just tired, babe, and then you pull out the fucking porn and you start jerking off next to it. I can get that can feel like real shitty. Yeah, I'm just surprised to hear that.
Well, that's just inefficient. You can play the porn and have the girlfriend jerk you off. Like there's
more. Yes, work together. Make it a team effort.
Yeah, okay. Make it a team effort.
Maybe for most guys, their use of porn is not integrated. Yeah. Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, someone said in the chat about NoFap. I don't know the stats on this, but they don't like the idea of NoFap. I'm curious, like, what are your views on masturbation in general? Like, are you encouraging healthy masturbation, but just not to porn and when it's excessive and when it's for the wrong reasons? Or do you take like the NoFap route? I'm like curious what your views on that are.
Yeah, so masturbation absolutely can be something that is in your life as a healthy element, but masturbation similarly can be destructive. If you are numbing the pain of not having a girl in your life by masturbating, and that's causing you to avoid actually going out and taking action, clearly it's not a healthy thing in your life. You're using it to avoid a necessary avenue of growth. So the framework that I use for people is something, it's very simple. It's called a 3-circle plan. Inner circle is like, hey, this is the relationship that it needs to stop at all costs. For people who have a pornography addiction who literally cannot stop, porn is something that like this needs to go and never come back. Masturbation is something that I've seen can be in that area where like if I'm masturbating compulsively to the point that it's literally damaging my life and relationships or causing me to avoid actually growing as a man, it's time to stop. Then, masturbation could also be in what's called the middle circle, where it's like danger zone territory, where it's like, I have the same relationship with this
as I do with, like, 3 times this week.
Donuts. Yeah. But I have the same relationship with this as I have with like eating donuts. Like this isn't really serving me in any way. And then there is what I would call outer circle would be when it's like life affirming. It's actually like an expression of something healthy for you. And to sort of delineate what defines those things, like if something is unhealthy, it's compulsive. You don't feel like you have a choice about whether or not you want to do it. It's probably combined with sexual fantasy that also feels compulsive. And it's also usually marked by avoidance. So you're doing it to numb or escape negative emotion, or to avoid taking necessary action to actually improve your life or relationships.
Here's an interesting question for the panel. If you have to pick either completely giving up porn where you never watch porn again, or giving up jerking off, which one would you do? Because for me, I would argue that I would definitely quit jerking off versus, I think, like, this is what I used to do back in the day. I haven't done this in ages, but like 2017, 2018, Alex, when I had a date with a girl that was like, I was a little nervous about, I used to have this ritual where I would go on Pornhub and find a video of a girl that looks like her getting fucked so I could visualize myself fucking this girl. And second of all, I would take a cold shower and then see if I could maintain the vision of me fucking the girl. And I don't know, maybe it was all just like fucking like extra non-necessary shit, but that worked. Versus I feel like if I jerked off, like that would just kill my motivation to go on the date in the first place, and I just wouldn't try nearly as hard to close. So I guess it's a question for everyone. You have to, I think we know where Nate stands, but you have to give up either porn or jerking off.
Oh, I'd give up porn.
I would rather give up porn. It just fucks with my head.
Interesting.
But you don't need a bust to jerk off. But I guess the downside of jerking off is it's kind of gay because you're touching a dick, you know?
I think something that I encourage a lot, instead of doing like the no fat thing, which I think is one angle, I just do encourage guys to do like the no cum thing, or at least like mindful coming. So if you're going to jerk off, use it as like a practice for sexual intimacy. So I like the idea of what Alex said, like envision yourself with the girl, like actually picture that. And this is where you can practice whether you want to become more sensitive, less sensitive, you want to control your orgasm a little bit here. And it's more of a mindful process. I do encourage guys not to come at all, but I mean, it's tough, right? You're there in the moment. So I think as long as it's like mindful, and as you said, you're not doing it as like a coping mechanism. It's not like, fuck, I'm really stressed, fuck, I need to get some sleep, or like, fuck, this girl just rejected me. But if you're like, hey, I want to get in touch with more of my sexual side, I want to understand that better, I want to last longer in bed, and you want to, masturbate, go for it. But yeah, I think the idea of involving porn can make it a little bit problematic. But yeah, look, there's probably a lot of guys watching this that, they fucking jerk off a couple of times a week with porn. As you said, I think they're probably completely fine. But
as long as they're not jerking off right now to the stream, they're good. Yeah.
Fuck it. Hey, go for it. It's if you see Alex and you're like, damn, what a sexy man, right? You're gonna get homo and touch her on dick. Go for it.
You look at my luscious hairline and you're like, holy shit,
exactly, yeah.
This man has his hair game on fucking point. I guess I guess to kind of bring it back to more to like pickup though, I would say that my ability to like never really need to like jerk off or watch porn unless I'm driving is directly tied to my ability to get laid. Like if I just completely there's a direct correlation there. I was watching porn all the time until I learned how to get laid, and then it just started tapering off the more I was able to get laid. I just find like jerking off to be so significantly inferior to having sex. But if I couldn't get laid, like it would be, I think, very, very, very hard for me to not engage in those activities. So I guess that's the trick. Like for the average guy does not know how to get laid, or they usually like the average guy like gets laid basically through luck here and there, right place, right time, several times, throughout his life. But I think that we do have a kind of unique advantage that we can all get laid pretty easily. What do you guys think?
Yeah, based on what you said, the one thing I would say is that pornography addiction, when it is like compulsive, I can't stop, it's not a sex deficiency disorder. That's like one of the greatest myths that I bust in, no pun intended, with people who start to work with me is again, like I can't tell you how many people who I work with who are married, they have girlfriends. There's no shortage of the opportunity for sex in their life, yet porn continues. For people who have a serious problem with like, I got my game to a better point, I'm going on dates, like there's opportunity and I still can't stop. It's because
don't you think there's got to be like at least a little bit of a correlation? Like there's got to be at least a little bit of a correlation causation there, right? I'm sure there's exceptions, but like if you take I don't know, let's take 1,000 guys who are really good at game and can get laid whenever they want, and 1,000 guys who can't get laid. Like, wouldn't you say that like porn addiction would be much more common amongst the 1,000 guys who can't get laid?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it depends where it comes from, right? So if you have someone that is jerking off because they're lonely, right? They're lonely, they don't have any friends, they don't have
Marcus, your
friends,
audio's a
they
bit
have
iffy. I just want to give you a heads up.
Yeah, Marcus, your audio is not coming from your mic. You just have to change the what your mic is.
Okay. Yeah, I'm being fucking with this. All right. Give me one sec.
This is Valley. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna get this after Marcus talks. We're gonna get back to game.
Hello. All right, yeah. What I was saying is, I think it depends where it comes from. If someone is like super lonely, they don't have any friends, they don't have a girlfriend, they're not fucking anyone, and that's the cause of them feeling really shitty, and they try to compensate by this jerking off problem they have, then yeah, I think like the minute they have more friends, they get more girls in their life, it probably helps to solve some of those problems. But if they're just super stressed out, right? If they're married and they've got like a busy work life and they're just fucking stressed out of their brain, then yeah, like having a wife that are fuck or a bunch of girls that are fuck probably isn't going to solve that issue. So I think, yeah, it probably does solve it for some guys, but probably not for others. Would you agree with that, Nate?
That's where I was starting out by saying that the first thing I do with people is identify where they're at on a spectrum of dependency or addiction. For some guys, it's like, Dan, you're super stressed out and you haven't had sex with your wife in 6 months. That's pretty clear where we can start to make some interventions. But there's other guys, like I said, where like, Austen was one of the people who encouraged me really to get into coaching this when I took a program with him several years ago, because there's people who start to work with Austen and it's like, yo, dude, I need you to not watch porn before you come on this immersion program so that you actually want to go talk to girls. And then they show up and they're like, when's the last time you watched porn? It was like last night. There's guys who cannot stop. And in those situations where they're literally, yeah. But in those situations, it's usually because it seriously is like neurodevelopmental. They've been watching it since they were 11. Their brain has wired in a way where it's become an integral part of how they process emotion. And trauma is usually linked in with that. Like I said, there's an entire field of sex addiction, of which porn addiction is a subset, which centers around trauma. And its influence in the formation of sexually addictive behaviors. So for people on that side of the spectrum, they definitely need more than like r/nofap and some habits and like, waking up and going for a walk and doing push-ups when they get an urge or taking a cold shower challenge. Like that's not going to cut it. There's deeper emotional work that has to be done for these guys.
We're
going to take a brief intermission from the nut busting, and
sure.
we'll talk about venue selection for night game. So basically what he's asking is, what kind of place do you want to go to for going out at night, and things that make the venue more or less optimal? And do you all night game alone or go with a group? So first, I'll talk about the venue selection. The thing that I look for is a fun venue that has a lot of people, a decent ratio of girls to guys, the attractive girls, and that it has separate rooms. I've just found when I take girls to, when I'm in a venue and I can easily take girls on kind of like an insta date in the venue, it just allows for pulling so much easier because she builds more compliance and trust with me. And it's just, honestly, it's way more fun. If I meet a girl and I can go dance with her a bit, and then I can go play pool, and then I can go sit down with her and get a drink. And then, there's like an outdoor area. Like those venues are the best. The venues that I found to be the worst are like the cafeteria clubs where it's like everyone has their own little table. It's like hyper status oriented. And those just kind of feel weird, and they've been worse for game. And then, yeah, and I'd say actually, I'll just pass it over to whoever wants to go next for other things that they like about a certain venue. The only other thing I'd say is if there's a street that has multiple good bars, I also like that too. So like Pink Street in Portugal and Lisbon, or like in Florida, there's a street where I live where it's just like tons of college bars and it's really good. People spill out into the street, so you can have interactions in the street, you can have interactions in the venue, and it's like this fun atmosphere. And I think generally fun is a better atmosphere to have to get laid than serious status and like look at me type of venues.
Yeah, I'd say that you want to avoid high-end clubs unless you're like Michael Sartain or whatever, have access to like the VIP. Just where the music is too loud, where there's like a big line. Like I've never found those places to be the best for getting laid. In fact, I find the lobbies outside some of these clubs to
Yeah.
be better than the actual club from what I've seen. So that's the first
Have
thing.
you ever
I
been to
think
Exchange in LA?
no,
It's
no.
it's like this. It used to be the former Los Angeles Stock Exchange, and it's like extremely loud dance club. And the best place to game there is like this lobby area next to the bathroom. It's quiet enough to talk to someone.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like I personally avoid places where the music is too loud. I think
We
lounge.
should also throw out some of our favorite venues. Like in Miami, I love the Wharf, um, and
They're closed now, unfortunately.
Toronto. I love this
Austin, they
place
closed the wharf
called.
like a few years ago.
Oh, they closed it. Wow.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Toronto, there's this place called Addison's
Damn.
Residence, and it was like this really cool kind of like loungy outdoor bar that had like fun game areas and like a dance floor area and like an indoor and an outdoor and like all these little corridors. And the other thing about the corridors is not just so that it's more fun to have different experiences with the girl. It's also so she doesn't feel slut shamed by her friends, and you can like make out with her in a corner. You can she kind of like forgets about her friends and just kind of gets lost with you in the moment. And I've just found it much easier to pull, much easier to build attraction.
Yeah, the wharf closed in
Yeah, that's-
2023. It is a shame they got bought out, I think, by another company. Yeah, I would add. So, okay, before I was rudely interrupted, I would say that you want to also, if the weather is decent, go to places that are outdoors, like have like outdoor area at least. I find that the more people, I agree with Austin, the more people, the better. Generally, somewhere that's not trashy, and somewhere where the ratio is pretty good. And also, here are two big tips I would give. Number one is go out earlier. I think going out like 1 a.m. is just like it's just gonna be mostly dudes. It's going to be guys who just haven't gotten laid. It's just going to be not a good ratio and whatnot. But getting there actually like for happy hour is a massive cheat code. Like for happy hour, I noticed the ratio can be like almost 2 to 1, like two girls for every guy. And then the later the night it gets, the worse the ratio gets. But like going out around like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. is just yeah, like going out early. I think is just like huge that a lot of people don't realize. In terms of like whether to go out with friends or not, I think I prefer going out with friends. I've gone out by myself. I find it like kind of boring. I think it's good if you have like-minded guys, but it depends on who the friends are. But if they're like kind of into pickup and they're kind of like-minded and positive, and instead of like basically discouraging you, they're actually encouraging. Yeah, man, go talk to that girl. I think that's really good. It also helps hold you accountable a little bit because when you're by yourself, it's like oh whatever, I can just skip this girl. But like when your buddies are there, you don't want to be embarrassed, right? So like I don't know how it is for like you guys and your friends, but like if I go out with my friends and there's like an attractive girl and that they know is my type and I don't approach her, they're gonna make fun of me, right? Like, oh, dude, what are you becoming a pussy now? You fucking YouTuber. So I think that, and I think that's good. It provides like some healthy social pressure. What was the other question? So yeah, I think it's also easier to find wingmen than people think. Like you can use any one of our communities. We have people from across the world. Austin's community, my community, Marcus's community. You can utilize that. Find wingmen in your city. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say on that. Marcus.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I think the biggest thing for me is like music volume. Like the lower that shit is, the easier it is to game. You don't have to like yell over it. But I will give the benefit of going to like a classier venue. It's going to depend on the venue itself. You just don't want to go to an area that's full of like sugar babies. But I've found there's been some good spots where you go to like these rooftop cocktail bar type of places and no one opens there because it's usually like some older guys that are kind of just chilling. And the girls just assume that you have value. So even listen, if you're still at like college or some shit, you rock up to this place and you just dress nice. All these girls assume that okay, this guy must have something good going on in his life, and they're not used to being open. So all the girls there are really friendly, and it's this like crazy dynamic where you rock up, the girls are super hot, they've got their shit going, a bunch of guys don't open, and then you go over and you just have the assumed attraction here. So it is tough because some of these places are just full of sugar babes. So be careful. But if you can find a place like that, it is the most optimal. It's amazing. The music is loud. It's great. And then in terms of going out by yourself or not, it can be nice to go out by yourself to basically get over that hurdle and to practice without having the crutch of everyone else around you. But it's just more fun with friends. So yeah, I mean, I prefer every single time going out with some mates or some wings. And as Alex said, it's easy to find these days.
Yeah, there's a venue like this called Isabel in Los Angeles. We used to go to a lot, and is exactly what you described. It's like very rich, successful guys that were just kind of like very stiff and couldn't talk to girls really. And then we rock up like full pickup mode, and just like girls are like not used to having fun. And yeah, I've had some good nights out there.
Austin takes all the stiff guys to task. You know, he shows them how it's done. Here's a really interesting question. Do you guys think? Do you think guys who do passport bro thing develop a sense of entitlement when they go back to their own Western country? I would say yes. I have noticed that. They I guess they adjust to the standards of whatever that country is, where it's probably a lot easier to get laid, and then I don't know. I think it's a really interesting question, but I would say the short answer.
Do you know what happens, Alex? Do you know what happens? They turn into a Western girl. Okay, they become entitled. Right? They go to a place where they get a lot of attention. People really like them. They set their standards really high, and then they go back to America and they turn into an American girl. Right? This is essentially what happens now. But yeah, I mean, you adapt to basically what you're given and what you're used to. So if you're going back to America, you better get used to being more of a struggle.
Yeah, but like I would say, like Austin's traveled all over the place, but I don't really see him doing that, right? But like I do see.
I will say, when I came back from Thailand, it was a rough adjustment. I went from the bungalow in LA. I was in Thailand for a month, and there was like 3 weeks that went by where I didn't get rejected, and a girl was acting weird to me at this like music festival I went to with my friend, and then I was like, why is she being like that? Is this girl autistic? And he goes, Austin, did you forget that rejection exists? And I was like, holy fuck. It was the first time I've been rejected in 3 weeks. And and then I came back to America after having a crazy success in Thailand. And I went to the bungalow, and I was talking to these two girls, and they do like the American thing where it's like very combative, very like, kind of like who can outwit the other person type of thing. And I was just like in shock. And I literally told them, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm kind of blown away. I'm just not used to the masculinity of America, of like American women. And they were like, we're not masculine. And then, so it is a rough adjustment, but then you kind of realize it's like women are largely the same everywhere. You just have to adapt to the cultural context you find yourself in. And yeah, when you go to different places in Asia that have like insane like penis arbitrage, it is kind of a rough adjustment coming back. Like, dude, when I was walking around Malaysia, it's like, I'd say 50% of all women would look at me and stare. Like, I'm not super jacked. I'm kind of jacked. I dress really well. I'm kind of attractive. But like 50% of women just like staring at me and like smiling and stuff like this. It's weird. And then you come back to the US and it's not the same. But I mean, the same principles still apply. Like a girl smiling at me or looking at me isn't going to open the interaction for me. I still have to open it. But yeah, it is kind of a change. But people that view different countries versus the US, they're not viewing it. It's apples versus oranges. Like I feel like in the US and certain places in Europe, the quality of the woman is just going to be higher. You're going to generally find a woman that's smarter, has more cool things going on, understands jokes and cultural references. Like the quality, at least from my perspective, is much higher. So I'm willing to put in more work to get a higher quality woman than just like racing to the bottom of the barrel, which is what a lot of guys do. It's just like, let's go to the easiest country and the easiest city. And then like, it's like, you don't need to do that. Like it's the difference of putting in like 40% work versus putting in like 70 or 80% work. It's like you ultimately fuck the girl at the end of the day. And oftentimes in Asia, it actually takes a little bit longer to fuck the girl. So sometimes they're not like super DTF, like especially in places like Japan, like Japanese girls can sometimes be very prude. So I don't know. I could talk about this for 5 hours, so I'm going to stop talking.
But I would say one thing in defense of, sorry, Marcus, go ahead.
No, go for it, bro.
I was going to say one thing in defense of like Western girls is that I would personally never feel comfortable getting into a serious relationship or marriage with a girl from a third world country. I've seen a lot of that not work out. Like the guy imports the girl and then it just falls apart. Like if you're with a girl from a first world country and you're not leading with your wallet, like, you know, she doesn't want you for your fucking citizenship because she already has one. Versus if it's like a girl with a third world country, like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like I would have that like little bit of a doubt in my stomach, no matter how well I screen her, that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that she has at least somewhat ulterior motives. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
Fun
was about to
fact:
say that.
the
I feel like
average
a lot of guys.
person travels to 4 countries in their lifetime from America. Isn't that crazy?
The average American doesn't have a
Americans
passport,
don't
but yeah.
travel for it. Yeah, it's yeah. I was gonna say, like, a lot of people hear passport bros as this magical land that you go to this country and then suddenly like all the girls love you and want to fuck you right away, and they all like. It's not like that. Like, you go over there and you have more attraction. Like, the extreme example, as Austen said, like, there's some Asian countries you go to, and just because you're white, people want to get photos with you, right? But yeah, for the most part, you're probably going to be giving up something. Like, I find I much rather have a conversation with like an Australian girl or an American girl than I would like a Polish girl, to be honest, on the average, because Polish girls, like, the culture just isn't as aligned as much. The humor isn't aligned as much. Sometimes there's a little bit of a language barrier. Now, they're obviously much more attractive, and usually you have like a high level of value just at the beginning. So there are things that are easier, but there are things that are more difficult. As Alex said, right? Like, they tend to be more conservative, so it's going to be harder to be more casual or close earlier. And also, like, if you are going over there to find like a wife, then yeah, there's a lot of difficulties there. Like, hang on, is this girl just after me for the American passport? Is she after me for my money? Like, what is the go here? So yeah, I mean, it is easier to build attraction, 100%, but don't just go over there blindly thinking it's, you know, the answer to everything. Like, if you have really shitty game and you've never been with a girl before, and this is your first girlfriend, then you're probably going to fuck things up, and it's probably going to be an awful power dynamic. So yeah, it needs more work than just like getting a passport and going somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. I think you need to have a baseline of game. And like, if you have a complete dog shit Tinder profile, it's still gonna be dog shit. If you have a decent profile, it will perform 5 or 10x better. But you need to have a baseline of game. And in fact, I would say the consequences for fucking up in a third world country could be more dire. Like, in America, it could just be like you getting rejected. In like Colombia, it could be like you fucking getting robbed or even like fucking killed. Just having no social skills. So yeah, like, if you're a guy in America who has very poor game, I like, don't just like, oh, I'm going to travel and it's going to be okay. Like, you should build up some level of game in the first world country. And that's actually when it becomes like, that's what, like, I think all of us have an advantage because we learned game in the first world country, in a Western country. And so we had that solid foundation when we travel to third world countries versus if you just start learning a third world country, you'll never be able to compete in America because you're just going to be like, you're not going to learn nearly as much. So I think that, yes, for like us, it's really easy in third world countries or whatever, but a big part of that is because like we already did game at like whatever, like 90% effort.
It's like playing a video game on like hard or nightmare difficulty level, and then you go to like, you just like play the easier medium mode again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
You feel like you have superpowers. There's this black this guy says, I am fucked. A lot of women don't want to see me after Trump won, as I was voicing my opinions for Trump. There's this guy called his black dude, his name's Scam Likely. He has the funniest, like, he meets girls through like Craigslist, the sex offender registry. He like finds girls on the sex offender registry.
Oh my god, that's evil. I love it.
Wait, yeah, type this Scam Likely. It's the funniest Instagram for you guys that know game.
How do you access the female?
So what he did, he saw his friend like posting stuff about Kamala, and he's like, bro, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I realized like he's doing that to like attract the baddies, but like secretly he's voting for Trump, but he's gonna like voice that to like yeah, stand against women's rights, blah blah blah. So
although
that's what you should have done, bro.
So the sex offender female registry is genius. I am actually really curious, like what exactly is the website that you go to?
Oh, dude, he also uses Facebook Marketplace and shops for TVs. And because he can see the woman taking the photo in the reflection of the TV, and he hits them up, and then it's like, "Yo, but you're pretty cute though," and then just starts chatting with them.
Dude, I'm gonna definitely check out this IG. But I would say that girls can kind of tell when you're being like fake and you're pretending to like something you're not. So like maybe like superficially it'll work, but like on a date, like if you start like bullshitting, like I feel like a lot of girls can see through that. It's just my opinion. I don't know. Okay, let's.
I mean, this guy should have just supported Harris.
Yeah.
From the get go.
Listen, I voted for Harris and I got laid that same night.
All right, this is the one political point I want to make. Alex said
Here we
80
go.
to
Here
90%
we go.
chance of Kamala winning.
I said 80. didn't
You
say
said 80 to 90.
I was wrong. Yeah, I was definitely wrong.
Oh, man.
Well, fortunately,
there's
I
always
teach,
next.
I get
There's always
dating
next
advice,
time.
and don't teach polling or whatever. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Okay, this is an interesting question. Can you speak about how a normal guy living with long-term girlfriend can sustain attraction years down the line? A lot of guys say you should not live with them as degrees of attraction, etc. I've never really.
Who are these? A lot of guys saying not to live with your long-term girlfriend.
I don't think she'll
Years.
lose attraction, but I do definitely think it can decrease passion over time. And I think there is like a I'll break this down in two ways. One, I've seen this guy. He's on the Chef's Table episode. His name's Francis Melman, and he's my favorite chef ever because he has the coolest perspective of life and dating and everything. And he has a wife and a kid, and he spends like 3 to 4 days a week with them. And then the other days of the week, he's like out in the woods, cooking in the middle of nature. Then he's like visiting his restaurants, and like he loves just being on the go and that kind of thing. And he does say that, like, you know, passion can decrease when you're with them. And then anecdotally for me, like I've lived with 2 girls, and I didn't like it. It felt like instead of having this like sharing these special moments together, it felt like you were sharing less and less special time, and like the more mundane stuff comes over time. And I didn't really enjoy it. So for me personally, I like dating a girl and having her have her own place, her own space, and me having my own space so that I can like just clear my thoughts, be alone, and she can do the same thing. And yeah, I like that. And then I think from a evolutionary psychology perspective, it makes sense that men would go on like these hunting trips. They'd go off and like, you know, hunt a mammoth or something. And then they'd have to they'd spend several days away from their women, and then they'd come back and they'd bring the meat back all packed and whatever. And, you know, there would be some breaks in there, and you'd see people. And then you see people, and then you would you'd go away and you'd come back, and it's like this natural rhythm. I don't like spending all the time with one girl. I can do like a short trip, 4 or 5 days, maybe a week or 2, but after that I want my own alone time, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I like
you talking. I just want to clarify. This is I understand the first few years, but say you're like 10 years into a relationship, you're a normal guy 10 years in, and like you're getting engaged or married, and like this girl is your partner. Are you thinking then that you don't live with her? Like for the rest of your
personally,
life?
Though, I've thought about it. I think what I would do is something
like a normal guy. I know for us it might be different, but like for a normal guy, I'm saying.
I think it depends on your finances too. Like that,
exactly.
I think the ideal option is that you guys live close together, but you'll have your own place. That's like me and my girlfriend have been together for like 3.5 years now, know each other for 5, and we live close. We live like 5 minutes apart, driving.
Yeah,
we both like having our own place. Like maybe like ideal would be if we could both live in the same building, but still have our own our own places. So yeah, but I think obviously like, you know, both in like top 5%. If you are, you know, if you're like a middle class person, you obviously for financial reasons have to like live together, especially if you're starting a family. But I think ideal, at least to me, I guess there's different preferences. But
and I think even if you live with them, there are, you know, guys like to go golf for a reason. Like they like to, you know, they like to do certain activities. Like older guys, they like to do certain activities where they spend like an entire day just like with their boys, you know, hanging out, sailing, golfing, whatever, just so that you can have some like time away from each other, so that it makes the time that you're together feel more special.
Yeah, I was going to add in, I think that there's, you know, you can live with a girl and still lose her attraction. Like being in living with her or not living with her is probably not going to be the primary variable that determines whether a girl loses attraction for you over time.
I think he's asking like the guy losing attraction, not the girl losing attraction.
I thought he meant the girl losing attraction.
I thought he meant the guy. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, well, to speak to this kind of flows both ways. I work with a lot of people, obviously, whose relationships get shitty, and in fact, I have a female one-on-one client right now who's divorcing her husband. So I've gotten a lot of insight into relationships getting shitty and ending. The primary thing is just that both or one party in the relationship stop being independent and they stop growing. They're like one of the biggest killers of relationships for guys is when your purpose is the relationship. You're trying to feel good enough, and getting into the relationship is the thing that you're telling yourself will give you permission to finally like yourself. So you get in the relationship and then you stop growing and you get comfortable, and then the girl just totally loses attraction. I think that healthy space and independence and staying focused on actually pursuing growth and a purpose that is independent of the relationship is essential. Otherwise, you're just going to become roommates or like best friends, and that's shitty.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with that. I think the issue here is, like, yes, if you're in like an open relationship, or this is like serious but still like casual, or it's in the first couple of years or whatever, then yeah, of course. So you don't want to be like jumping too deep into this. You don't want to be spending every fucking day with this girl. You don't want to be living with her. I think that's, yes, I think we'd all agree with that. But if you're talking about like a long-term partner and like years down the track, and like you're thinking of starting a family together and stuff like that, then I think you just need to balance that. Yeah, you're probably going to live with each other. You're probably going to spend a lot of your time with each other, but it shouldn't be every second of the day, and you shouldn't be so dependent on each other. Yes, there should be some independence there. As Austen said, there should be a golf trip. There should be some time when you go kill a mammoth or some shit. You should have some time away with it. You should have your own friends. You should have your own like social circle going on. And there are ways, as Nate was kind of mentioning, you can sustain attraction with the girl, right? Don't become fucking completely needy and just listen to everything she says and never set any boundaries. But yeah, I think like living with a girl is completely fine. You just need to make sure you have the other things in step. But I mean,
I think there's an element of preference, and I also think it's different if you have a kid. Yeah, if you have a kid, like if me and my girlfriend ever have a kid, yeah, we'd obviously live together just for logistics and like convenience. Plus,
this is what I wanted to say: is if I get to that point where I have a kid with someone, I want to be in a house that has like a guest house, or I'll just construct part of the house for me. So it's like there's like a divide. So I have time. I have like the ability to focus on things and business and my own space and stuff. And then I can, obviously every day I'm going to be hanging out with my kids and stuff, but then I have like some alone time that I can spend during the day.
These are all ideals.
I have a question. Are you guys sleeping with your girl in the same bed every night?
Yeah. Well, like whenever she's over, yeah.
I do like
twice
like
a week. This future scenario.
Oh.
Like in this future scenario, I'm saying.
Yeah, I love sleeping next to my girlfriend. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you have breakfast together?
I don't eat breakfast.
Okay. Would you have dinner together?
I am Russian. We cry in the morning.
Want to live with them, but you just want like your own room, which is fine. Like it sounds like you guys want to spend time with them and live with them, but you just want your.
I think there's a difference between a different room and like an entire like guest house or like wing. In America, there's these. You probably have it in Australia too. It's just like there's a house.
What are you gonna
like this? There's like,
and obviously you put the woman in the guest house, and what
I'm asking is, it sounds like you guys are probably going to like. She's probably going to go to work if she's working. You're probably going to sleep in the same bed. You're probably going to have meals together. Like it just sounds like the times in between you want your own space, which could be established for guys that are listening at home that don't have like fucking 3 houses. Is like for the normal guy, yeah, they can just have their own space, right? Obviously, like with unlimited money, yes, like we'd have like a.
Marcus, you understand? Okay, me and Austen just want to live together. We don't want to live with girls. It's not gay.
Yeah, dude, we're gonna do our sacred seed release and our bro bonding together.
I'm noticing something. Okay, this is a male-only stream. We're talking about touching our own dicks. Next conversation is how we live with the boys. We don't want to be around women. Okay, what stream have you guys got me on? What's happening?
This is the grinder
stream. But I agree with Austen. I think it's all just comes down to preference, honestly. Like I also like having my own time. And actually, it's funny that you said the guest house thing, because that's actually I've also envisioned that in my mind. Like, yeah, if I have like $5 million, just buy like this massive mansion where there's like a separate thing. But that's funny.
It doesn't even really have to be a mansion. Like if you just get your own land and build a house on it, like you could just construct like that as you could put that in the plan for the house.
Building a house, I'm not gonna live.
Yeah, I guess my point is there's a difference between kind of having your own time and space and not sleeping with the girl at night, not having meals with her, living separately, and then meeting up as if you're dating, which it doesn't sound like what you guys want. It sounds like you just want your own space, but if you have a lot of money, that space is going to be very big. It just kind of.
I would do that after I have kids, but before I have kids, I want my own apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
Like,
I
if I
guess
live-
like what I'm viewing this as is not our preferences, but what we would tell like the normal guy. So we have like 100 students. These guys are like someone like, yeah, I want to get into a relationship. I want to have like kids in the future. Like, hey, should I be living with my girl? It's like, yeah, probably, right? If that's where you're going, if you've been dating for years and years and you look to have
if
a
you're
family,
planning
and,
on
like,
having kids, then I
yeah.
think living with her is a good first step. But outside of that, I would be cautious against advising that. Like,
all right, live with the boys. All right, we're starting a house together. Okay, the panel, the boys. All right, I'm in.
well, because it's like if you have like a falling out with your friend, like that's and you're living together, all right, you guys just ignore each other, whatever. One of you, but it's like a little different when it's like you.
Marcus, it's like Project Hollywood.
What's
Right,
Project
we
Hollywood?
we can move off this. I think we spent a little
Okay.
too much time on this.
All right, easy.
Okay, so let's quickly address this. Aren't your priorities backwards? You're broken, focus on getting girls. This is like the red pill thing where it's like, yeah, get your money in order, then you focus on girls. I think if you're like fucking can't eat or you're like basically homeless broke, then yeah, probably focus on that. But I think you can like focus on like growing from middle class to upper middle class or like starting a business while you're also picking up girls. I mean, I know I did both at the same time, so I don't think you have to like pick one. And I think the problem is if you prolong it too long, it becomes an excuse, and it's like, oh yeah, when I hit 7 figures, that's when I'll focus on getting girls. Oh yeah, once I just sell this company or whatever, and it just
Once my
becomes-
social skills have atrophied over a decade.
yeah, and then your social skills just atrophy, and then you're rich, and then you just get like taken by some like fucking sugar baby who out socials you or whatever. I don't know.
I will say this. I think you have certain times in your life that you are primed to do certain things. Like when you're young, that's the best time to like put on muscle and meet girls. When you're in your, 40s and 50s, that's your like prime earning potential where, you can make the most money. So I think there's different times of life that you should focus on different things. And I think generally you should focus on meeting girls early in life because it helps you build your social skills, which is going to help you in every area of your life when it
It's also
comes
gonna
down
help
to
you make
business,
Yeah.
psychology, making money, meeting a partner. And actually, I think it's much better to focus on making money when you have a girl that you're fucking. Because if you're not fucking someone, you're just going to be jerking it and you're probably going to develop a porn addiction. And it's like, it's better to at least have a fuck buddy or a girlfriend when you focus on making money. And also keep this in mind. Oh, I think it's like every Forbes billionaire has a wife and they made most of their money after they got married and it didn't affect their earnings potential getting married or having kids in a negative way. So I think that idea is kind of silly. I do think there's an advantage to focusing very deeply on work and like saying no to other things for a short period of time. Like Alex Hormozy calls that a season of no, and I think that's important for like 1-2 years. But yeah, I also do think it's super important to and most people are not going to have to do that because most people are not entrepreneurs. Most people don't need to grind like 120-hour weeks. So yeah, I think it's better to focus on meeting girls, building muscle, and then developing, like finding what you have a passion in or finding something that you're curious about and you like to learn more of and building your career around that and just like allowing that to unfold over time because you're not missing out on any crazy earning potential when you're like 21 on average. So
Yeah, you
it's
can always
gonna
make
depend
money
what you
later.
mean by.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, this lag, bro. It's going to depend what you mean by priorities and what you mean by broke. Like, I'm sure we'll all agree. If you don't have a job, okay, then yeah, if you're actually broke, like get a fucking job, move out of your like mom's basement or some shit. 100% make that the priority.
Marcus, I honestly
But
learned
if you
game
was-
while I didn't have a job. In all honesty,
Well, you should have fucking got a job, okay? I'm so it's
Maybe.
like that should be the priority, right? Like if you just set up like that, that should be the priority, and it won't take you long. Like this isn't a 10-year grind to find a job, okay? This is a 2-month grind to find a job. So yeah, like if you're in that situation, do the 2 months, get your fucking job, like move out. But after that, I agree with these guys. It's just going to be a matter of there's like diminishing returns a little bit on some of these things too. Like you can have a massive easy learning curve if you just go out and do game for a couple of months, and you're going to be way more social. And if you focus on your business for a little bit, that's also going to have really big gains at the beginning. So I think like if you're broke, fix it. But otherwise, the priority should be kind of fairly spread out. And as Austen kind of said, yeah, there's no disadvantage from really getting an amazing social game early on in life.
funny enough,
yeah,
when
a
I
lot of
was,
people
in my
forget that
early
you can do
stages
things
of-
simultaneously. Like to get girls, you really only need like 10 hours a week. And then to make money, what do you need? 40 hours a week Like these don't need to be like taking up your entire life. And like even getting jacked, 3 workouts a week, and you're like basically doing like 95% of your potential in building muscle. So
Funny enough, when I was in my very early stages of learning game, I was also donating semen. So I was literally making money to jerk off until I got kicked out of the program for undisclosed reasons. But anyway,
Does that count as
yeah,
an
I was
addiction
gonna-
if you continue?
yeah,
I don't
you
think
and
so.
Nate's program is so funny. You're like the funniest dude. So I've been jerking off
was,
while I was driving to stay awake, and I had to donate again, so they made me watch.
I had to wait. I had to not
Well,
bust until I made it to the center. So I was driving. I was like, fuck, speed it up. All right. Tips on opening 8, 9, 10 girls versus less attractive ones. I'm programming with Jersey. It's the same question, but for text getting different. I personally think it's very, very similar, if not.
It's the same, but it's what it does to you. So if you're putting that girl on a pedestal and you're thinking about her as a special goddess as opposed to just another girl, then it's going to put you in your head and it's going to make your game much worse. So I don't even say like she's an 8 or 9. What do I have to do differently? It's just like you just talk to girls, and then the ones that are more attractive, you spend more time around, and you desensitize yourself to beauty, and it becomes normal for you. But I will say this: if there is a big disparity in overall attraction or attractiveness, so if you're like a 4 or 5, and you're talking to a girl that's like extremely attractive, then you're going to get less chances than a guy who is more attractive. But it doesn't mean you can't bang that girl. It doesn't mean you can't date that girl. It's just you're going to get less chances. It's going to be a little bit tougher, and you have to compensate in other ways, whether it's your game or lifestyle or whatever.
I would also add that one of the biggest mistakes guys make when they're going for the hot girls is instead of playing to win like they do around the average girls, they start playing not to lose. They're worried about fucking it up. It's like, oh shit, I've never talked to a girl this hot. I want to fuck it up. And just by playing not to lose, you're going to eventually lose. So yeah, if you can treat like a 9 like you would a 6, like you would actually be like much better off than a guy who like tries to do something different. But yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, I think there's actually 2 ways to treat this differently. So one is the way you guys mentioned, which is it has an effect on you. Okay, so you can't walk up there being like overly nervous, thinking you're not good enough, like, and being much less confident than you would with a girl.
I thought you were 9.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. But the second part is I actually do think it's a little bit different. I think hotter women usually are going to be around more people. They're usually going to be harder to get access to, and they're usually going to be opened a little bit more. So they're going to have like high standards, essentially, not only because of that, but their own perceived like what they can get, kind of what Austen was talking about. So I think when you do open them, I encourage guys to go much more indirect. With an average looking girl, you can kind of go up and just give a very confident compliment, and the girl's like, damn, this guy's semi-good looking, hopefully, but he's very confident. That's a really attractive trait. That's kind of enough for me to want to keep talking to this guy. With a hot girl that gets open a bunch and might be around a bunch of other people, if you just go up and give a very confident compliment, usually it's not enough. Usually they just brush it off. Usually they make a decision right then and there. This guy's not good enough for me. Remember, I'm a 9 or a 10. And so I would usually encourage guys that are going up to very attractive girls around a lot of people, go very indirect, even speak to the friends first before you even engage her. So that's like the slight difference I didn't know.
The only thing I would say to counter that is I don't actually think 9s and 10s get approached more than 6s and 7s, is just from what
They
I've seen.
tend to have high standards, though. They might not. You're right. There's these situations where like there's a 7.5 and 8, like a girl that's slightly attractive but looks very open, that gets opened a lot more, or she's like standing by herself. But they tend to have high standards, so they might not get open as much in the club. Maybe they're at a table, but they do get a lot of attention on Instagram. They do get told their whole life how beautiful they are. Guys do simp around them a lot more. So I agree with you. They might not physically get open in the club, but they get a lot more attention, let's say.
Yeah. To add on to what Marcus was saying, I think that's a really good point. They will screen you way harder as well. My girlfriend, the first time I brought her to my house, she's opening my fridge, seeing what's in my fridge. She's going through my bookshelf, seeing what the books I'm reading are. She's like analyzing everything. And yeah, you don't date in a vacuum. These girls have access to other guys, and they know relatively what they can get elsewhere. You're right. And especially if they're older, if they're 25 plus, like they've dated some very successful men. Like they've dated, whether it's a celebrity or my assistant here, she's dated football players, professional basketball players, college athletes, some celebrities. It's like they have access to like very high level guys. So you have to at least be, you don't have to be that famous, but you have to have the qualities of a very attractive man, and you have to have your life together. Like just because some guy's famous doesn't mean he has everything together. Fame is usually packaged with social status and money, which is cool. But, you know, maybe you could spend more time with her than another guy. There's always like ways to outcompete another guy. And if you, and also even the way you fuck a girl, like if you can do certain things for a girl that allows her to like be herself that she wants to be in the bedroom, she can finally express that part of herself, and it just like it makes all the other guys kind of fade away. So ultimately, I think, and you'll see this when you walk around the streets, women are not like, you'll see very attractive women with kind of average looking guys, and it ultimately it's like women will fall in love with people that they just fall in love with. And there's also an element of cultural similarity and cultural rapport. You ever like walk around, you see like a dime like Latina girl, and she's with like some frumpy looking Latino guy, and you're like, why is this? And it's like, because there's cultural similarity. She fell in love with him, and now there's kind of like a bond there that's built. So that's where I guess I would differ from like red pill stuff. Is like I see how love works, and oftentimes it's not very rational. You know, it's not always this is the most attractive guy I can get on paper, but it's like, who do I have a romantic connection with, and who's my like heart lighting up for, as gay as that sounds, but you know,
attraction is emotional, it's not logical.
Gay.
Hot gay.
This is I guess a different question. Do y'all believe the mystery method is ahead of its time and certain concepts still apply today? No, I think it's actually backwards for a lot of things, but
it might have been ahead of its time.
I'll let Marcus go.
Like,
I know Marcus, you probably have a good take on this.
Yeah, I think like a long time ago, it was probably ahead of its time. Yeah, the fact that it might have been like the first guy that kind of came out and said, okay, there's a system here. Okay, don't show too much interest. There's a way to demonstrate that. Hey, we want to build like some, you know, trust and sexual compatibility, and like we move this forward. And like I think a lot of things there were kind of probably ahead of its time, I guess, or maybe the first person to kind of come out and teach these things. But I mean, right now, this thing is still back like fucking 20 years ago, whenever the fuck this thing came out. And a lot of the concepts have kind of, in my opinion, it's very clear they don't work as optimally. Now, it's better than just anyone doing anything, right? 100%. But to say it's optimal in any means is completely ridiculous. Like none of this is evolved, adapted. There's a lot of things in here that just don't work.
Yeah, well said. What is Austen doing? Was he doing
Probably
some
choking off?
Eating, yeah. But yeah, you basically said everything I was going to say.
That was quick.
Sorry, guys, just had to bust one out real quick.
Yeah,
all right, Daddy's back.
Nice. That was quick. You look so awake as well. It really, you know, keeps you awake. Damn. Okay.
Yeah, efficient. But I agree with what you said, Marcus. It's kind of like you like learn how to play basketball in the 1950s with the strategy of the 1950s, and it's like, yeah, this is good. It gets the ball in the hoop, and like, you know, it works kind of, but like the strategies have evolved over time, and there's much more efficient ways to score and play basketball. It's kind of like that. It's like it was a good approximation of the truth, and they say ahead of its time. It was just like the next step and the next iteration. He formalized a lot of things that were going on in the community at that time, and I think it was very good. However, like, dude, the over-reliance on routines, I think, is bad. I think you lack the connection and chemistry that you can build just by being more of yourself and letting your own personality come out. And I think that makes you internalize this idea of like, I'm not enough. I need to use external things. And I think it's okay to have some optimized lines here and there, but I think 80% of your interaction should just be like off the cuff, building attraction, chemistry with the girl, just like based on who you are. And I think you have the best interactions that way. And then I think the idea of negs, which came out of the mystery method, I think that framework where it's coming from is bad, which is the girl is up here. She's a 9 or a 10. I need to neg her to get her down to my level because I'm a piece of shit. And then we'll finally be on the same level, and then I can connect with her. Versus just using like different ranges of expressions and teasing a girl and assuming that we're on the same level and we're just having fun. And I'm teasing her because it's fun, and that's how, you know, men and women are supposed to interact, versus like trying to strategically lower her value or something. So
Yeah.
Is that how they just grab the neck? I thought that was just
Yeah.
people would shit talk about it. Is that
No,
Jesus?
Austin nailed it. Yeah, it's like if he was much better off, he called it teasing. Teasing is good, but yeah, the way they
Yeah, because I like
Austin
the
nailed
idea of
she can come down to my level where I'm a
it.
little
Yeah,
worm.
the idea is that the girl's
Yeah.
like, think she's up here, and you want to bring her down. Yeah,
Jesus. I mean, the way I see it is you're bringing yourself up. Like, instead of coming across as this very desperate, needy guy that sees her on that pedestal up there, is that you just treat her like a normal fucking person. You tease, you joke around, you disagree, and it puts you like, hey, this guy, okay, he's not seeing me as like this magical prize. I didn't know they actually said like, okay, do this and bring him down. That's fucked. But anyway,
maybe not. The
I
exact
do
word,
agree
but-
with he has the 3 stages of seduction. So it's attraction, comfort, and seduction.
I disagree with the comfort, but
That
I think
I
the
think is
7-hour
actually,
rule is kind of silly. Or was
Yeah.
it 7 hours.
yeah,
or
he
like-
said you need to spend 7 hours with a girl
Yeah, I think that's
to
just
have
not
sex with
enough.
her. And then anyone who's had sex with a girl in under 15 minutes knows that it's a little bit shorter. It can be a little bit shorter than that. So
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot can be a lot short. But yeah, I've actually talked to Mystery about like the 7-hour rule. He like sticks by that. I was like, well, given that like you've traveled around and you've seen some shit and you've seen a lot, do you maybe have a different perspective on the 7-hour rule? And he's like, basically like, nope, still think it takes 7 hours to. He doesn't say it takes 7 hours to have sex. He says it takes 7 hours to have to have sex in a way that is going to make the girl like likely to come back. Which again, I think that can be.
and I know why, bro. I had a chat with fuck, I'm gonna forget the guy's name right now, but one of his coaches. We had a discussion recently,
Dexter.
and I realized, yeah, exactly, and I realized why this happens. Right, it's because basically anytime they've had sex with someone in a short amount of time, they haven't built anything up. Right, you're gonna remember their structure, which is we're just gonna sit here and chat and maybe have some DHV monologues where it's not even involving the girl. To Austin's point, there's no chemistry really built there. And then they just like have sex. So it can feel, I guess, like very empty at times. And if they don't have good sex or they don't like manage it afterwards, then yeah, like I can see how in their framework and the way they're doing things, the way they counteract this is just spend a lot of time with a girl. So anyone that like basically is willing to go through that stage, they're filtering them out. Anyone who's willing to stick around for 14 days, okay, then okay, of course they're going to want to see you again. They don't know how to build the amount of attraction or chemistry needed to have sex quickly and have the girl actually still into you. So yeah, it's a bias that happens where you stick to this like one form of game, you don't optimize it, and then you have this selection bias of girls that probably don't want to see you again.
Yeah, well said. You guys spoke on dealing with American Western girls, regards to with the masculine type attitude. Am I coping if I say myself it's repulsive and they're only good for LA? I can't take them seriously like you feminine girls seem to be less in the West. Okay, I would push back on this. Here's my introducing concept: is that a lot of the girls that you think are masculine in the West are actually super feminine and submissive with the right guy. Like if you were to like my girlfriend works in marketing and sales, and she has a pretty good high paying job. If you were to like encounter her at work, you think she's like very like dominant and assertive, right? She kind of has to be, like being a 5-foot woman working in a predominantly male industry. But like if you watch ever me and her, you'll think she's like the sweetest, most feminine girl ever. And like, yeah, like girls, some of these like high powered women who are like girl bosses or whatever, like with the right guy, they'll be super submissive and super feminine. So I think that's an important thing to realize. I would still venture to say that the majority of women in the West are feminine with the right guy. And there's probably some exceptions, but yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a small percentage. It's just like they're just maybe not feminine with you, right? They kind of have that like bitchy outer shield, or they're brats, right? But once you get past that outer shield, they just kind of melt in your arms.
yeah, women are like oranges. They have that exterior rind, and then like once you peel it through, dealing with whatever shit tests or just put enough time in, they're all juicy and sweet in the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so anyone have anything to add before I move on to the next one?
Yeah, women are like ducks. If you put like bread out, they slowly gain your trust over time, and then you could basically have the duck like in your hands.
Yeah, women are like dogs. You can kind of train them to be a little bit more feminine.
Yeah,
Women are like dogs. They'll occasionally they're pretty good, but sometimes they'll just take a shit on your carpet.
Sure. Hey, when that happens.
That's an interesting question. If there was fuckboys and nice guys, isn't there anything in between? And yes, I think there are. Actually, most guys are probably somewhere. Well, most guys that get laid are probably.
I have never had a definition of what a fuck boy is. It's a very vague term. I think It's kind of like
guy who's just,
a
like,
political
looking
slogan.
for-
It's like it's deliberately vague so people can paint whatever they want onto it.
I think it's generally implied to be a guy who just wants like a bunch of casual sex. It's a guy who gets laid a lot and is not looking for anything serious. I think that's generally how like what people mean when they say fuckboy.
I think girls use the word differently, or depending on the girl, maybe. Like sometimes when I hear girls say fuckboy, what they mean is someone that lies. Like to them, it means
okay. I
they're
forgot to
completely
add that.
fine with me. Yeah, exactly. Like they're fine with me fucking around, and like they might call me a fuckboy, but they don't mean it in the same way. Like yeah, like I have a lot of casual sex.
Yeah,
or
they mean
whatever,
dishonest.
and I'm
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I think a lot of girls are like, hey, are you a fuckboy in the sense that are you going to lie to me? You're going to say you want a relationship and then like you're seeing 10 other girls. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the in between is just being a good guy. It's like you can be a high value guy that's like pro social, cares about girls, and treats them well.
There's also a lot of guys who like have pretty decent social skills, have like decent game, but their goal isn't to just fuck as many women as possible. Like one of my best friends, actually, my developer for Firetex, he's always been good with girls, but he just prefers relationships. So he just like has just had a bunch of girlfriends. He can get laid a lot if he wants to, but he just like likes having relationships.
So I have a question for you and Marcus. Do you think if you've had sex with more than 100 or 200 girls, that it's going to impact your ability to pair bond with a woman?
Not necessarily, no.
In the same way that it probably would for a girl.
Okay, so this is what I'll say. It might be a correlation causation thing. So I think guys that might find it difficult to pair bond might tend to fuck 100, 200 girls. So if you have a very like avoidant attachment style, or like, the idea of a relationship is like repulsive to you, then yeah, you're probably the type of guy that's going to go out there and sleep with 200 women. But I think if you just take a guy and he sleeps with a bunch of girls, like there's no evidence there that affects his ability to be able to pair bond whatsoever. There's been no evidence for that. And I think it's the same with girls. There might be some girls that are fucking broken and might seek a lot of validation and God, and they're probably going to make horrible partners. But just the fact a girl sleeps with some guys, I don't think now decreases her ability to like connect with anyone. From my personal experience, I actually think it increases the ability. Like I think I've learned a lot of things from my experiences that allow me to connect with people on deeper levels. So I don't believe in this idea that it like fucks up your chances or ability.
I think I might slightly disagree with you. I think for guys, no, like it doesn't need to. Like I would say that I'm extremely pair bonded with my girlfriend, and I've been with like hundreds of girls. For girls, I'm sure there are girls who have high body count who are capable of good pair bonding. But I would venture to say that a girl who goes out and has sex with hundreds of guys, she is either number one, seeking validation, seeks validation through male attention. Number two is that she has some kind of emotional trauma that she's trying to fill through sex or just attention. Or number three is the other one is that she is just really novelty driven. She just loves the novelty of sleeping with another guy. I'm not talking about double digits. I'm talking about like triple digits, like 150, 200. And so I don't know. Like I don't think I've ever met a girl.
But again, to my point, she was like that before sleeping with her.
Yeah.
My point is that is who she is. It's not like
that you didn't make her. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. I think like it's a red flag if girls have been like, I've slept with 300 guys. There's probably a reason they're going against social norms so strongly, or they're seeking. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I just
so
don't
here's the follow-up question. What would the optimal situation be like for your future wife? Would it be that she's slept with 3 guys and they were all long-term relationships? Would they be just 3 guys that she saw casually for a bit? Or would it be like 30 or it doesn't matter?
This is such a small variable on what I'm looking for in a girl. It doesn't fucking matter. Now, again, like big red flags, if she's a virgin, I'm probably not going to want to date her, okay? Or if she's, 400 guys or something, I'm probably not going to want to either. But as in, like, most girls you meet, it's going to be the average. It's going to be like, 6 guys or something. And it makes no difference if it's 4 or 8 to me, or like 15 if she's a little older. Like, it's such a small variable. What I'd rather think about is what were those relationships like? How is she like with me? How is she around my friends? Do I get along with her? Is there chemistry? Like, if I met an incredible girl and then she's like, actually, I slept with 9 guys, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I met someone last week that was 6. I think I'm going to choose. Like, it is such a stupid concept to me. But
yeah,
I would agree with that.
I would say I don't even think there's a big difference between like 6 and 16. Honestly, I think it's just.
I don't think there's a difference between 6 and 600, really.
No,
Well, like to be
there's-
fair, I mean, we joke about that. To be fair, like I
Oh no, the
girls in
Australian
the OnlyFans
internet.
space or escorting space, like I've met women that with escorting that have slept with probably more than Jamov, and they're actually really cool, awesome girls. But it will be the exception there. I think like it's a red flag. You should think about it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think any of these things are going to rule it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but you would never like get in a relationship with one of those girls, right? Like a serious one.
Probably not. But my point is, like, you can meet girls with incredible, like, high leg
Yeah, they
counts.
can be super
still, like,
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. I know some girls with high body counts. They're like
And
super.
do you know what?
cool.
Maybe I would, right? Maybe there's a possibility there I would. But yeah, it's just like it's a red flag. But I think the reason I want to clarify this is I think people demonize this so much and they think about it so fucking much, and it's all that obsessed with their fucking mind. And they meet a goal, they're just desperate to find out if it's like 3, 5, or 8, and it's just like, dude, just settle down. Just base it off everything else. And yeah, there might be some red flags, but just chill the fuck out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times
Yeah,
that
there's
also comes from insecurity. What'd you say?
I was going to say there's an intergame student who's been working pretty much with this exact same issue. And one of the things that I've been talking with him about is that most guys use this number thing as a proxy for what they really care about, which is a girl's sexual values and how she's likely to treat sex and commitment inside of a relationship. And part of the thing to realize, right, is like there's girls who get married, they've only slept with one guy and they cheat. There's also girls, like, it's kind of infamous, right, if you often hear like some of the most ride or die girls of all time are strippers. There's not as tight of a correlation between a girl's sexual values and the likelihood that she's going to be a loyal, amazing girl and the number of guys that she's slept with as most guys think there is. What you should really be caring about is like, what are these girls? What's her sexual values? Does she seem like she has good character? Is she trustworthy? Like using just the number thing to control what, like a girl's past is having so much power over whether or not you decide to be with her, and you're overlooking what actually matters.
Yeah,
I think guys need to.
Yeah, I think like the more interesting metrics would be to screen for would be does she have a okay, here are they. Number one would be, is she able to maintain long-term friendships, or is she always like having to get new friends? Like, what is the longest friend that she has? Does she have any friends that she's known for 10, 15 years? And if she like doesn't, then that's a red flag. I think number two would be, is she constantly jumping around jobs, or is she able to like maintain a job? Number three, what is the longest relationship she's ever been in? Her body count may be 10, but if every single one of those was like 1 month or less, then that's potentially something. And also her relationship with her family. I mean, there are obviously exceptions, like some girls get abused or have bad parents, but assuming that's not the case, like, yeah, the relationship with the family, I think, is, and it's not specifically the dad either, it's just the dad, the mom, just like the whole family, I think, is a factor. But yeah, I think those are probably more important metrics to look at. You guys are saying to be yourself, but the guys like we waffles are lending toward incels. How would you guys? Yeah, I never actually say be yourself. I don't think anyone on this panel does. My advice is to be the best possible version of yourself. But that can mean a massive transformation based on where you're starting from. If you're a guy who's like not able to get laid and you repulse girls, then being the best version of yourself is going to be a massive, massive transformation. Like you're going to be almost a different person. You're going to be building on the strengths that you have, and you're going to be really, really working hard to eliminate any of your weaknesses. So I would never give the advice of just like, oh, just be yourself. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's the right advice for the wrong person. Obviously, being authentic is where a very important piece of attraction comes from. But for most guys, if you're like in incel territory, you're probably in a psychological state where you're mistaking this bundle of trauma coping mechanisms, neediness, anxiety, and insecurity as your authentic self and real personality. And so when those guys hear just go be yourself, they're like, oh, let me just go double down on being the needy, insecure guy who's always taking value in every interaction that I get into, hoping that somebody is finally going to give me permission to like myself, and then suddenly hope that doubling down on that strategy is going to make things work. For most guys, they don't know how to be themselves. They probably had something happen in their past where they put on this facade, and they've been wearing it for so long, they're mistaking it for who they are. They're living in coping and survival mode and protection. They've never really experienced what it's like to just actually be authentic. So I think that, like I said, it's the right advice for the wrong person. If you're in that state where you don't have a history of doing well in relationships, there's probably a massive amount of transformation that needs to occur for you. trauma healing, being able to relax, open up, actually be self-expressive, find out what you like, take ownership of that, not be so influenced by affirmation and approval from other people, right? There's all these different pieces that probably have to be worked on, to the point, like where Alex said, you literally will have to become a different person. This is a radical transformation, but you basically have the options of dealing with the pain of being alone and an incel for the rest of your life, or dealing with the pain of learning the skill set and transforming. So which one are you going to pick?
Yeah, well said. I guess this kind of also opens up the door to kind of talk about inner game a little bit, which I think we should touch on. So this is kind of what I did personally. I changed my inner self through positive reference experiences. Through knowing about pickup, I had a logical idea of where I want to be. Like, I want to be non-needy. I want to be assertive, right? I knew that through logical, content consumption. And so I acquired the positive reference experiences that were able to change my subconscious to be in line with that. But I know there's other ways of changing your inner self, or like learning inner game. So what would you? I think you guys can speak on that. I just personally never tried the other way. But what do you guys think are like other ways you can like improve your inner game?
So I want to clarify what Nate said too. It's not just, you're not becoming you are becoming a new person, and because you're doing things that you haven't done before in that sense, but you're actually getting closer to your core. You're kind of shedding your fake self in a way. You're getting closer to your authentic self, which I don't even talk about in my program until the 5th phase of game. I think you should learn how to desensitize, learn how to vibe, learn how to sexualize, learn how strategy in game, learn how to pull and all that. And then in the 5th phase of game, once you've done all that, it's like, okay, now you can start like becoming more and more and more authentic, because you're gonna reflect these qualities that you've developed, and you're gonna reflect who you are at the core, and that's gonna make your attraction like skyrocket even more. So I want to say that. And the other thing that you asked about, like changing your identity over time, or like improving in this way, I think of it as you identify with your future self. You take steps to get there, and then along the way, you interpret every single thing that you're doing in a way that buttresses your new identity. So if you have this identity of like, I'm a loser, I'm an incel, and you adopt this new identity, I'm a winner, I'm a ladies' man, let's say, and you have that identity, it doesn't feel real to you. So what you need to do is it's kind of like a tabletop. It's like you have this, and now you have to build the legs of the table. So I'm a ladies' man, I'm a winner, I'm whatever, I'm good with girls. Then you have to go out and get experiences with girls and use it as a way that builds up that belief, or at least doesn't damage the belief. So if I have a bad interaction, I can interpret it in a way like, hey, listen, I'll learn from what I did wrong. But you know what? Some people have bad days. Some girls get on their period, right? It's like there's things that go wrong. And then when things do go well, it's like it went well because women love me, because I'm awesome, because I have good game, etc. And then these kind of beliefs start to solidify over time. And I think the one caveat with the way that works for like 90% of people, 80% of people. If you have a really, really intense childhood trauma or something like that, that's when you need to go into like exploring trauma releasing or psychedelic assisted psychotherapy or things like that. So I think Nate can talk more in depth on that.
Very, very well said. I actually just agree with basically everything said. The only thing I would add is you also have to control the inputs that are coming into your mind, into your soul. Like you cannot be like, if you're a guy who's like you're in the early stages or even the middle stages of the journey, and you're trying to level up, you cannot be just watching a lot of like negative red pill or black pill content, which at the end of the day most of it is. That's one advantage I had was that in 2013 when I really started learning game, that shit wasn't around. It was all just like positive pickup stuff. Some of it was like woo-woo, and some of it was like not the most effective, but there was no like real, or at least I didn't stumble upon any like negativity. And I just wonder how much different my whole trajectory would have been if in 2012, instead of finding positive motivational pickup content, I found like negative, like black pill content, which is like, oh shit, maybe it is my fucking hairline or whatever, my fucking crooked Jew nose. So yeah.
I wanted to say this is so important for people to hear. I was reading this book called The Status Game. It's one of the most important books about how humans work that I've ever read. And basically one of the things he says in it is you will do or believe whatever will gain you status within a group. So any group that you're a part of, think, what is the action or belief that will gain me status in this group, and ask yourself, is that a good thing? So like I play Ultimate Frisbee. The thing that gives you the most status in that is like laying out for the disc, or like sprinting really hard and laying out, which could be, it's generally pretty good. It's pretty healthy for you. However, when you think about it like a red pill group or a black pill group, what is the belief that's going to make you, what are the actions? The actions is being a victim, and the mindset and the identity is like being negative, complaining. That's going to rise your status in the group. Like the biggest complainer, the one that has the most like the most I guess solidified complaints is the one that's gonna win.
Yeah, think about like what happens in a red pill group or black pill group. If you're like, hey, I went out today, I met a pretty cool girl, we vibed. I feel like my game is getting a bit better.
But she's probably ran through her. She's probably
I got her phone number. I think it's a pretty good. We set up a date. I think it's pretty good, bro. She just wants you for your money, bro. She's a time waster, bro. Think about the feedback you're gonna get by sharing that story.
Yeah, so it might make sense for you to completely leave those groups, at least temporarily. Just tell yourself like, I'll spend 3 to 6 months outside of it and do a trial. Be like a mad scientist and test things in your life.
Yeah, I want to add to this. The way I see it is kind of combining basically the way you guys go about it. So I think the way I see it is you have thoughts and beliefs that are going to affect your emotions, they're going to affect the actions that you take, right? And all of these like circle back on each other. So what Alex did basically is he took charge of the actions. He went in there and had really good positive feedback for goals, and then that affected his thoughts and beliefs and his emotions. But you have to be careful here. If you're going to go out and do the action thing, I think RSD was big on this, right? Just go out and do like 1,478 approaches, and it's going to make you feel better, and you're going to have better approach anxiety. Like it's going to be solved. Well, the issue becomes when you do the action, you need to control that narrative. So if you do the action, you go speak to a girl, and then like we were saying, you have the positive aspect, which is like, that's awesome. That's really good. You're going out there, you're learning. Or you have the red pill aspect, which is like, see, another girl fucking rejected you. So you got to be careful. Action is really important, but it's got to feed back on the right mindset. Then the last point I'll add, when you're creating the mindset and belief, it has to be something you actually believe in. If you sit there and you just tell yourself, I'm a really attractive guy and women love me, and you don't believe it, and it's not true, the other part of your mind is going to overrun that. And basically all that's happening in this process is you're reminding yourself, I'm not good enough. Hey, I'm really hot. I've got a six-pack. Well, if you're fat, your mind's just going to remind you, hey, you're fat. You don't have a six-pack. So find beliefs you can start with that you actually believe in. So it could be like, hey, all right, I think I might be able to go out and at least get some good reactions from girls. And at the very worst, I'll go out, get some bad reactions, and that's things I can learn from. So now when you go out and you get that bad reaction, you weren't going out with this expectation of I'm going to fucking kill it. It's like the mad scientist perspective. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to see what happens, right? Oh, look, there's some things I can improve on, and I will, and I'm going to get better. And over time, I'm going to get really good at this. And right now, in the meantime, there were some smiles, there were some laughs, there were some good reactions. And so I think like believing in things you actually believe in, building up on those, finding the experience to prove yourself right, and then thinking about the actions that you take and actually feeding back into the mindset. If you do that over and over and it becomes a skill, all right, this is something you have to think about. It doesn't just happen. If you go out there and make it a skill like you do with game and everything else, then you will build incredibly strong in a game, and it's going to help build attraction from that.
Yeah, I think there are two things that you guys
Nate,
said that were
Nate,
so
you should
important.
mention the installing as the default. That's what I was gonna.
The installing as a default. What do you mean?
Yeah, I actually got this from you, but I teach it now. It's basically like you basically need to hold that mindset and those actions for a long enough period of time that they become installed as the default. So like your default changes from I'm a black pillar, I'm a incel loser, to I'm a ladies' man, I'm awesome, I'm good enough the way I am, you know?
Yeah. I mean, repetition over time. Alex Hormozy, I think, put this the most poignantly in that quote that he has, where he said, confidence is having a stack of undeniable evidence that I am who I say I am. There is an integral part of this with the installation of belief that has to come from experience. You have to experience that the beliefs that you're practicing in the world actually lead to good results and are true. And I think that part of what I was going to add in is I think both of you guys said things that I really hope that the people listening understand like how powerful those two statements were. One is like one of the most, probably the most powerful lever you have to change your life, to heal and to transform as a person, is to change the status environment that you're connected to. You want to connect to a status environment where you are forced to increase status by doing good things, not by becoming more of a victim, not by blaming and externalizing all of your problems onto other things, right? Like lowering your agency to gain status is not an environment that you want to be a part of at all. Even if like this odd bit of information here or there that is said might like be somewhat true. But the other thing that Marcus said, which I think is so powerful and so important, is something that I focus on very deeply in my program. Is it basically is like, you know, where do you turn to for power in your life when you want to change? When something bad happens in your life, what do you turn to internally in order to like create transformation? Do you turn to shame? Do you turn to blame? Do you turn to anger? Do you turn to self-criticism? Or do you turn towards the truth? Do you turn to things that are encouraging and motivating, that are going to push you in a better direction? And pretty much across the board, what I see with guys who are stuck in patterns of self-sabotage is the thing that they turn to for power to change in their life is shame. They go up and they get blown out, and instead of recognizing and affirming that, like, you know, you haven't approached a girl in years and you just confronted your fear to go and take action, that's a good thing. But these guys do not have the capacity to resonate with that or to remind themselves that that's the truth. Instead, they loop on why they're not good enough in this false system of beliefs that reinforces this shameful identity. And absolutely, I would say, like what Marcus was saying, you have to stop turning to shame, to self-criticism, and to other forms of self-abuse as the thing that is going to motivate you to change. And this goes super, super deep as well. Like, this is where I think the inner game stuff that I teach can go very deep. Like, if every single time something bad happens in your life or you confront difficulty, the thing that you respond to it with is shame, that reveals something really deep about what you believe about the world and how you are oriented towards reality. Like, if there was a better source of power that you knew existed that you could turn to that would result in a better result than shame, you would be turning to it by definition. Like, you're in a situation where you're worshiping shame and you're
Unless
wondering
you're a victim,
why your life isn't
if you
going
develop a
very
victim
well.
mindset, then you will actually get like satisfaction from turning to things like shame.
Oh, definitely. But they also stay stuck in patterns of self-sabotage. And I've never seen a victim whose life turned out well.
No, never happened.
Yeah. And so if you find that you're stuck in those patterns of just like beating yourself up, I would ask you to look at, like, what are you turning to for power to change in your life? And what would happen if, like Marcus was saying, you actually started practicing turning towards something that's true and empowering and encouraging in a way that's not like painting abs on a flabby gut. You know, you're not just like hitting yourself with these like pithy affirmations of like, oh, you know, like, oh, you did it, queen. You're a babe, even though you're like 400 pounds overweight. It's like, no, the truth here is that you're confronting a fear. You're confronting a deficiency in yourself, and that is courageous. Like, yeah, sure, the result didn't go well, but there's a truth. There's a kernel of truth here that is good, that has to be affirmed. And then, like Austen was saying, when you do that repetitively over time, it eventually becomes the default, that you start building the winner effect and the positive momentum that will install that new state of a positive identity as a default.
Yeah, I would just once again triple down on that. You never want to be a victim when it comes to anything, any kind of success. If you ever want to have any kind of success, business, relationship, game, whatever, you cannot be a victim. And yeah, it's just so many people nowadays are professional victims, or at least partial victims. And also another thing is, keep in mind, like, I think it's easy to get a false sense of reality based on like social media. So, for example, like let's say you have a bad date and you search like, oh, a bad date, whatever, like advice, and then like you stumble upon like red pill content and you start getting inundated with stories of other people who had bad dates or got ripped off or something like that, and then you think that's just default reality for everyone. I think the biggest example of this is when people ask me like, so are all the girls in Miami well, yeah, but you see how girls in Miami are on Fresh and Fit. It's like that's not the average girl. It's a massive sample bias. So yeah, I think it's you got to also question the shit you see on social media and don't jump to the conclusion that's actually the reality. Like there's people out who like if you sometimes you got to step out of what you believe and see if there's truth in a different perspective.
Yeah, we should do about 25 more minutes and then call it max.
Yeah, I agree. Like 20 minutes. Yeah. This is a funny story that made me chuckle. Whether you guys believe it or not, my ex tried to get with a gay guy after we split, and he wasn't having it because he was legit gay. But I overheard her a few times telling him about my skills. He smiled and waved me anytime I saw his gay ass in public for years after. Good references do help, though.
Okay.
Okay, we got a I guess all caps question. By the way, guys, you don't have to do all caps. We'll still see your questions. Hello, Alex. My question is, how do you deal with a bitchy girl who only answers your questions with monosyllables? How to create attraction with that type of bitchy girls? I'll let one of you guys handle this one.
It just sounds like she's not attracted to you. So yeah, is this on text?
No,
Or
I
is
think
this in real
this is
life?
probably like real life. But either way, like if look, some girls will give you the bitch shield, right? And you can kind of through persistence penetrate that.
Yeah. So if that's the case, if she's giving you a bitch shield, what works for me is basically I just assume attraction, assume it's going super well, and I just keep bantering and keep talking and keep doing my Pepe Le Pew kind of charm. And then eventually the bitch shield kind of goes away. It's like the orange rind of the orange, and then she's sweet on the inside. And yeah, sometimes it'll take 5 seconds. Sometimes it'll take 30 seconds. Sometimes a girl will be kind of like uptight for a minute because, you know, her friend said something that made her angry and she's just kind of still processing that anger. And, you know, and then over time it'll fade away. But, you know, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you look like. I don't know how you smell. I don't know how your fashion is. I don't know how your game is. I don't know how your voice sounds. So that's all I have to go on. But yeah, in general, if a girl's giving you nothing, like, you need to improve some things about yourself. Or it could just be, let's say you're just a 6'5" Chad, you know, jacked, amazing jawline, you know, 10% body fat. You make 7 figures a year. You're charismatic. You're funny. People love you. You're just coming through with a group of 10 girls. And then this girl's giving you monosyllables. She's probably like something's wrong with her. So it depends on the context.
I think also guys need to be able to differentiate between bitches and brats. They may seem similar to a guy who doesn't have like pretty strong social skills.
And if a girl's bratty, then you can literally use that dynamic to fuck her. Like that's literally the psychosexual dynamic that's going to get her wet. So
but a lot of girls will
call her out and
will be bratty, at least in the early stages. This is like for anyone who watches the channel, you know, like the video I did with the Finnish girl, like everyone in the comments was like shitting on her. Oh, this girl's the biggest bitch ever. But I never thought she was a bitch at all. She's just a brat. But like brats, once you get past their bratty exterior, can be very kind and nice and sweet. So yeah, I think that's also important. I don't know. I think probably Marcus, you can probably speak more about that than I can.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the mindset here needs to shift. Like if she's literally said 3 monosyllabic words to you and that's it, you probably have no idea who the fuck she is. Okay, so like calling like a bitchy behavior or something, I just hold off on that. I just say like, okay, she's giving me like what seems like non-compliance right now. What do I do? So you need to build attraction, right? Speak to a fucking friend first. Or as Alex kind of mentioned here, I test the brattiness thing. I would actually turn to her and say, damn, I love your fucking attitude. Okay. Big smile. I love your attitude. What you're conveying right now is I can handle this. Okay. You might be trying to like reject me or give me some shit. Hey, I don't give a fuck. I actually like this. It makes me feel more confident. And I don't even feel like I'm getting rejected right now, even if that's your fucking intention. Sometimes, even if she's not being bratty, she's just kind of dismissive and like, fuck, I'm not attracted to you. This in itself builds a huge perception of confidence. And so that in itself can actually build attraction with this girl. But hey, she's a bit of a brat. You look at her and you say, I love your fucking attitude. she's going to melt. She's going to smile back. She's going to give you some more shit. You give her some more shit. And it's literally like 30 seconds in, and she knows you're the one guy that can handle her. You're the one guy that can actually build this dynamic with her, and you're fucking that night. I guarantee it. That is a little bit more advanced, is a little bit more difficult. But yeah, change your mindset. Try to build attraction, and if not, go the bratty attitude angle.
Yeah, brats can be the most DTF kinky girls. So that is
I think this is the problem with coaching online too. Is like this we have no idea what the situation is, right? He's describing like 5% of what's happening, and we have no context.
He's like a Palestinian in Gaza, and he's talking to like an Israeli soldier, like, "Hey, can I please have some food?"
Yeah.
No, but like we haven't eaten in like 3 months. No, oh fuck, like I don't know what's going on with this girl. No, I'm just kidding. Here's a good question, or I don't know. Will a game be more difficult or about the same next 30 years? Realistic AI sex bots, more incels, more social growth. I think it'll be the same, is my opinion.
Dude, it's going to be way easier because the AI sex bots, they're down to fuck, dude. They're programmed to please you.
Imagine they're not. Imagine they give you like fucking attitude and shit, and people like we become AI bot coaches. So people come on, they're like, "Yo, so this AI, man, I don't know what to do about it." We're like, "Fuck, okay, this is that'd be hilarious." Yeah, I think it's going to get easier in the sense that everyone else is probably going to become just a little bit more isolated. They're probably going to be less social. They're probably going to used to be online. So if you go out there and you fucking say hi to someone, you're probably going to see 10 times more confident in 30 years than you do right now when you do it. I saw this right after COVID. This was massive. Before COVID in Sydney, girls were bitchy, okay? They were used to getting approached a lot. They were giving a lot of attitude. They were more dismissive. They acted more entitled. Then 2 years of fucking lockdown in Sydney, no one was allowed to leave their house. You got after that, girls were nervous. They were super nice. They were receptive. So I think there's probably going to be more of that in the future, I imagine.
Yeah, you guys went crazy on the fucking lockdowns. I remember reading about that.
We don't fuck around, all right?
Yeah. I don't have this up right now, but there's a thing. It was like top 100 trends. Like it was from this book called "It's Getting Better All the Time." One of the authors' names is Simon, and basically they break down all these trends about how life is getting better all the time, and there's like 100 trends that prove that. But they're the opposite, like the antithesis of that book is called "Civilized to Death." And actually, I know where I have this. It's called "Civilized to Death," and the top 10 trends of that about how the world's getting worse is that we have a loss of community, so people have fewer and fewer close friends. There's chronic stress. Everyone's diet and health is pretty bad. Work-life imbalance, so people work too much. Environment, mental health crisis, inequality. Yeah, disconnected from nature. But yeah, like just that one, loss of community. People are more isolated, and they're more. They don't have that same bond with other human beings as they used to. Like there's less time socializing. I think it's like half the amount of socializing time per day as in 2000. And yeah, so I agree with Marcus. I think if you're just a generally social person, I think in 30 years it's going to pay off in dividends. So yeah. And also one of the only things that AI can't replicate is in-person human interaction. So until it can do that, that's like one of your biggest strengths. So
yeah, something that I tell people that I work with is if you can, like in 20 years, just having basic social skills is going to be a superpower. I think that there's a little bit of like an Elysium super disparity that's going to emerge. We're already seeing that, obviously, but in 15, 20 years, the number of like the small percentage of guys who have good social skills are going to just continue to accrue more and more of the social results as a wider percentage of guys get captured by pornography, these other like AI sex bots, right? That kind of things, the red pill movement at an earlier and earlier age. So absolutely. I think if you can develop social skills, the bar for how good your social skills have to be in order to gain success over the next 15 to 20 years is probably only going to decrease.
Yeah, maybe. All right, I guess I think we covered a lot of shit. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up?
Not really. I think this is good that we get into the habit of just doing the value stream once a week. It helps people out, and it's fun to talk. And GG. And I just got like 4 video ideas from this. So
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people on my channel joining. By the way, guys, if you want to support this, there's a very easy way. Just tune in every week. Tell your friends. Obviously, it's going to motivate us if we see that every stream we do, we get higher views. So yeah, tell your friends. Make sure to show up, and that's all we really ask.
Yeah, I think we have triple the amount of live viewers as we did last time.
Not on my end. I have about the same.
It says, at least on StreamYard, it says 93 total.
Yeah, that's what we had like last time on my stream.
Okay. Dude, 2 from Nate's channel. Yeah, Marcus, you need to stream this on your channel. I'm bringing in 20. Dude, Alex, you bring in so many. God damn. You have a lot of like live viewers.
I don't think so.
And you have more.
That's probably the area where I'm weakest at is live viewers. I never really cared about that too much, but
I remember my first YouTube live ever, I got 1,000 live viewers. It was like when it first rolled out and they were pushing it really hard, and I was using the Honest Signals channel.
oh shit.
Yeah. 2017. All right. Let's do our shout outs. Thanks for listening, guys. I'm Austen Summers. You can find me everywhere on the internet at Austen Summers, YouTube, Instagram mostly.
Nate?
Yeah, Ultraman Project. You can go check us out on YouTube.
Yeah, what's up, guys? My Instagram, YouTube tag is right in my name there, at Recover with Nate. If you need to learn how to stop jerking off, guy.
If you want to learn how to watch porn while you drive, then come over to my channel. This is what we focus on, especially having a really cute dog in the car. That definitely helps with perception.
Dude, these channels are niching down so much.
Yeah. But all right, cool, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks everyone for showing up. We'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.
Cheers.
All right. Peace.